Right, a new report has found that Māori children in the Oranga Tamariki system are being let down. Arran Jones is the independent children's monitor, done the report and with us this morning. Arran, good morning.
Yeah, kia ora, Ryan.
Well, it's not a good morning, is it? Because in every time we hear reports like this, it's not a good morning. So 92% of kids who are in trouble with youth justice, which this will surprise no one, but had a previous care and protection concern raised about them. In other words, this is saying, if you had a bad childhood, you're more likely to end up in trouble with the law.
Yeah, that's right. And actually what strikes me with that statistic is there's the opportunity, right? So how can the system do better? And when I say the system, I'm talking about Oranga Tamariki, I'm talking about health, I'm talking about education, to support these kids when they first come to the attention, so they can go on and have good lives. And one of the striking things with this report is the aspirations of young Māori that are involved in the system are really no different from those kids that aren't. And the question is, how can we support them so they can go and give life to those aspirations?
Totally. So what does this mean? We're excited about social investment. This is Nicola Willis's baby. This is what Bill English tried to fight for. This is early intervention for exactly the children that you're talking about.
Well, that's exactly it, Ryan. If we can intervene early and invest in those services and supports, but you've got to make sure that you're putting the right supports in place for them. And so this report talks about some of those initiatives where Oranga Tamariki are partnering with iwi Māori providers and others to provide the right services. And they're not about addressing symptoms, they're about addressing the underlying causes. They're working with not just the young person, but also with their whānau, because that's where they live.
Yes,
but you've got to work with the whole family.
As your report says, Arran, you can't actually say definitively what impact that is having. Those programs are having. I mean, even though they you have one or two good examples, you can't say anything's actually definitively working and turning the tide.
Well, that's a real challenge, because when you're working in the social area, there are so many impacts on a young person's life, and to be able to point to a particular action or a particular thing can be challenging, because actually it can just be having one person in their life.
How will we even know? How will we even know if what we're doing is even going to work?
Actually, I think it's pretty simple, Ron. If you go out and see some of these initiatives, you see them in action, you talk to the families like we do, you talk to the children, you can see it. And, there's an example in there about, I mentioned it yesterday, a young person, they stole from a business, they're now working there. So they've gone through a restorative process, had fronted up to what they'd done, and now they're working. And so that's the sign of success.
Yeah, totally. But if you're talking about one example, in order to spend tens, hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars to turn this tide around, we need a higher evidential threshold, don't we?
Yeah, and the Social Investment Agency will be looking at that. There are new ways of trying to measure the success of some of these initiatives. But look, the alternative, Ryan, is that you just build more ambulances at the bottom of the cliff. And that's not good for these young Māori. That's not good for communities either. And it's not good for their families. So that's the choice that has to be made.